Well, in fact, Amita, currently we are broadcasting from one of the bunkers in Kiev. Remember, since late last night after the talks that took place between Russia and Ukraine, there's been heavy bombardment, at least in the city of Kiev. Kharkiv, on the other hand, has also been completely pounded by the Russian troops. But as far as Kiev is concerned, let me just describe what we have witnessed in front of our eyes over the last 6 to 7 hours, starting around at 9 o'clock in the night when a big explosion took place in the center of Kiev. We are not very sure of the exact location of that explosion, but videos that have emerged, which we've also sent across to our newsroom, indicates that this was in the heart of the city. As far as casualties are concerned, no word from the Ukrainian authorities at this point in time. But let me quickly take our viewers through what's the development like across Kiev. So far, what's the situation in terms of the advancement of the Russian troops are concerned, because that's where the major concern lies at this point in time. In fact, southwest of Kiev, recent satellite imagery has been indicating that there's been a massive Russian troop equipment advancement. In fact, that is almost 40 miles long, troop equipment that's wending through various cities of Ukraine and moving towards Kiev. Now, that's the big concern at this point in time. If at all they manage to break through and enter Kiev. They've been trying this for the last 5 days, but there has been a massive pushback on the front of the Ukrainian army. And perhaps the boost that they're getting right now is from the civilians who have also taken up the arms. We do not know at this stage the number of casualties, but the Ukrainian Defense Ministry has been putting out information about the loss of Russian soldiers, which has now gone more than 5,000. 5,000 soldiers, armored vehicles of the Russian troops, tanks, and in fact now images also coming in of Russian fighter jets that have been brought down. Let me also bring in my colleague Mridul right now, who's also going to take us through the latest update that we have received from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukrainian Army. That's a long list, so perhaps Mridul can read out some of the important points. Mridul, if you can just take points of
First of all, I would like to say separate unit of the most combat-ready unit of the armed forces of Belarus have started moving to the state border of Ukraine in Volyn direction. Okay. So troops are moving, and in addition, the territory of Belarus continues to be for combat stories for army, operational, tactical and special aircraft of the RF armed force to perform tasks. Secondly, the enemy losing offensive potential, loses along with the human face numerous cases of violation of the laws of war, international humanitarian law by the Russian aggressor have been recorded along the entire offensive line. One more thing, Ukrainian flags are hung on columns of Russian military equipment. This is the main part. Such cases have been observed in the settlement of Peramoha, Nova Basin, Kiev region and the Karnotsova highway of Cherniv. This is the reason. Kiev, Nova Basin, they are the main reason of the Ukraine. And one more thing, tanks from the Russian occupation forces on their way through the villages of Borodyanka, where the explosion shook yesterday. And one more thing, on the order of their commanders, begin to deliberately destroy infrastructure and housing, and a separate group of tanks open chaotic fire on a high-rise building.
So that's the other key point right now. Three big takeaways from the office of the General Staff of Armed Forces. One, that Belarus perhaps is now going to participate along with the Russian.
Last morning, in fact, we were the ones who had also put out that whether at all Belarus is going to participate or not, despite the talks actually taking place at the Ukrainian Belarus border. What's going to be the other key factor right now is what are the other cities that perhaps the Russian troops are going to target at this stage. As far as Kharkov is concerned, the mayor this morning has put out a statement saying that a lot of people have been trapped in buildings that have come under missile attacks. So remains to be seen how exactly the Ukrainian army is going to respond to that. There is also one more big fear at this stage, that is whether at all internet and telecommunication lines would be snapped. The Russians could be targeting that so that they could use their
their own signal. So it's going to be a very critical 24 to 48 hours. Late last night was certainly one of those difficult nights that we have also witnessed from the time that we've been here, even before the war actually began. The reason essentially being is that there have been multiple air raid alerts. So now let me just try and explain this to all our viewers back in India. What does this essentially mean, and why this is turning out to become a nightmare for the people of Ukraine? We have spoken to a cross-section of people in the bunkers that we have stayed. Right now we are broadcasting from one such bunker. There are prohibitions of moving around in this particular area. A lot of
location to be disclosed, hence you're seeing us right now completely standing in one corner of this particular bunker. In fact, let me just try and tell you what we have witnessed. In fact, I'll bring in Medul also, the difficulties that one is facing when they are in a bunker. Roughly around 9 o'clock late last night, when information came in that the talks were actually over and perhaps situation is going to be quite volatile. That's exactly what happened, because we heard, at least from where we are not exactly in the center of Kyiv, a little on the outskirts, but we could clearly hear the explosion. And within few minutes, what we also witnessed were videos that came in. And if you take a look at that particular video that came in from the center of Kyiv, resulting in some sort of damages of the track lines, which is closer to the central Kyiv railway station. We are being told that one of the tracks of the railway station was damaged because of the explosion that took place in that area. Thereafter, there have been multiple raid alerts. In fact, what we could count from the place that we've been in, roughly about 7 air raid alerts have taken place. So what happens when there is air raid alerts that are taking place? That would essentially mean that people have to take shelter. That would be in the nearby areas. Are these really bulletproof shelters? Not really. Or bomb-proof? Not really. Because what you're looking at is makeshift arrangements that have been done. That is, you would take a look at where we are right now. This is essentially a garage, an underground basement of a hotel, which has been completely converted, where people are staying. Like this, there are thousands if not thousands, that would be a little, the number is not exactly, we are not very sure about the number of shelters, but at least it would be in hundreds. And it would immediately have a shelter. For instance, where we are, it's a little few kilometers away from the hotel, which would mean that the moment there is an air raid alert, you would have to run and take shelter in the nearby case. In the other air shelters also, which is how it's going to be. I'm told that there's a problem with the audio. Let me just connect once again. And yeah, so
we can hear you, Shravan. We can hear you.
Question about Amita, let me also bring in Mridul right now. Mridul, the difficulty in terms of the shelters there have been also reports that are coming in that a lot of people are now facing the shortage of food supplies, shortage of water. That's becoming the other big challenge. So there is a humanitarian crisis that is brewing at this point in time. For people outside India, remember, outside Ukraine, let me tell them that what's really happening. Because when civilian areas are constantly being targeted, there is a lot of fear. So let's not make any mistake about understanding what the Russians are doing. It is when they constantly harp on the fact that these are military bases that are being targeted. I've been saying this right from day one. I've been sticking my neck out simply because, unlike various other networks, we've been on the ground, and we've not been we've taken the risk of stepping out of these bunkers and going to the areas where the destruction has actually taken place. And visuals tell you the real story, and that story is that you have civilian areas that have been constantly being targeted. Mridul has also been there. Along with me, our video journalist Surendra Singh Rawat has been there. All of us have been traveling across. We have clocked more than 1,000 kilometers from the day we have actually landed in Ukraine. Mridul, just narrate a little bit of what we are seeing right now. How perhaps we are looking at a time which is going to be far more critical in the sense that people here
people here are worried that perhaps the Russian offensive is just going to increase now.
Definitely. First of all, I have to say that there are so many videos we saw yesterday where Russian troops received a hatred from the Ukrainian civilians, and this is the main thing, that Russian troops were heading towards Kyiv, but they're facing so many hatred. And one more thing, yesterday we went to the mall. There are queues are I don't know how many people are there. Yeah, it's a long queue there, and the people are rushing towards the mall because they don't know what's the situation they are facing in I think in a 1 week or 10 days. There are a very critical situation. Uncertainty is there. And one more thing, yesterday we saw in Kharkiv and Chernovsky, the place where the railway station are full of students and full of Ukrainian peoples. They are heading towards their destination, but they don't know where are they going. But the thing is that the situation is quite tense these days, and after 4 or 5 days, we don't know the Kyiv is the safest place or the Lviv is the safest place. Everywhere.
Very difficult to say which exactly is going to turn out to become a safer place, because yesterday when we were interacting with one individual,
really belongs to an important organization here in Kyiv, and when we were asking that whether at all there is
and when we were asking that whether at all there is any, she's a local. In fact, when we asked her this question, that whether at all there is any safer location from where we could move in, because there is a lot of, the threat perception is just increasing. The response was this, that there's no single place in Ukraine right now which is really safe. Now, very morbid kind of responses that are really coming in, but that's expected, that you have people right now who are extremely worried, tense, primarily because they do not know what exactly lies in the future. Whether at all there's this offensive of the Russians is going to just increase. There was a short lull that we saw in the 3rd and the 4th day of the war, but as many would say, it could be the lull before the storm. That could be the huge possibility at this point in time, because if you just simply go by the satellite imagery, it only goes on to show that there is no stepping back as far as the Russians are really concerned. They are upping their entire offensive at this stage. The movement of artillery, the movement of rocket launchers have also increased. Belgorod, in fact, there was a latest video that came in from Belgorod in Russia, moving into Hoptivka, where we're being told that rocket launchers have been brought in. In fact, Hoptivka was one place from where our team had reported even before the war had begun. And we saw that on the other side, yes, there is hospitals that have already been built just next to the Ukrainian border. So the situation certainly remains extremely volatile, and one will have to see how things really turn out, because as far as the talks are concerned, the talks haven't really resulted in an immediate immediately resolving the issue. So obviously, let's see how things actually pan out, and we'll be trying and getting all our reports.